So let me tell you first of all about myself, right? As I told you that my name is Amit Pandey and I have done the certification in A+, Network, Security, CH, right? I am certified cloud practitioner in the AWS, right? So I am certified in the Certified Solution Architect Associate, right? SysOps Administrator, right? Advanced Networking Specialty and Certified, Certified Security Specialty, right? These are the certification that I have done till right now. Okay, so I have been working in the InfosecTrain for more than plus 3 years. Okay, and this is my LinkedIn profile. If you want to go and check, then you can definitely go, right? That's it. Okay, so this is about the InfosecTrain. What happens in the so this is about the InfosecTrain. We were established in 2016, right? And we are the leading providers about the, about different technologies. We teach different technologies as well. We maintain, we kind of provide services to other organizations as well, right? About different kind of technologies, right? Mostly related to the security part, not just about the cloud, but about the security as well. Okay. So, and this is our trusted client, the Tatas, right? The Indian Air Force and all these are our trusted clients, right? So let's start this masterclass. So that's it. So let's start our Cloud Computing Experts Masterclass. Okay, so today is day first, right? And today's, you can divide the today's topic into into two categories. First is the cloud computing fundamentals, and the second is visualizations concept. Okay, so and in the cloud computing fundamentals, what we are going to discuss is about introduction to the cloud computing. Okay, all about the cloud computing part, what it means, and all those kind of things. And then we'll be discussing about the cloud architecture, right? And advantages, right? Architecture just theoretical. I will be explaining you, but as the session goes on, like tomorrow and the after tomorrow, we will be doing much more hands-on thing, and I will be kind of showing you how it's done and all those kind of things in the cloud architecture part, right? And then there is AWS cloud services. What is IaaS, PaaS, right? There's different deployment models, right? Based upon your particular requirement, you will be having different deployment models, right? Like the public, private clouds, hybrid cloud, and all those kind of things, right? And then we have something which is called the share responsibility matrix, right? So definitely in the cloud, there is something which is very, very important between the client and the person you are, or the service provider. The most important part is the trust, right? So definitely to build that trust, so before that there should be kind of a share responsibility in that, right? So that's just definitely a responsibility should be there. Okay, that's it. And then definitely we'll be talking about the cloud, that challenges about the cloud, because at the end of the day, no technology is perfect. Every piece of technology would be having some kind of a flaws, right? So you have to figure it out as well. So if in your organization, in your respective organization, if you are your senior executive and all any others discussing or has a future plans to move from on premises to the cloud, right? So we will be in today's session thoroughly understanding about the advantages, as well we will be discussing about the disadvantages, what can go wrong, right? If you switch to the cloud part, what are the the problems that you are going to face? Okay, just few of them. There can be tremendous problems, issues, and advantages as well, but only few will be discussing in this session. The basics one, right? So that would be easy, it would be quite easier for you to kind of understand, right? And the second part of this session would be virtualizations concept, right? We will be talking about the virtualization. What is a virtualization, right? Right, virtualization is basic. Hypervisor, what is hypervisor second, hypervisor first, right? This is we will be discussing. Then we will be discussing about different deployment models on the VM premises, right? I will be kind of showing you that thing, okay, how it's done. Then we have something which is called VM, to the containers part, and benefit of containerization. Okay, so what is the benefit, what is the VM and the container, all this kind of thing. Just a brief overview I will be telling you about how it is and how it looks like. Okay, that's it. So let's start the session. So cloud computing fundamentals, right? So first is, what is a cloud computing, right? So what happens in the cloud computing part is that there is a cloud. For example, there is a server there, and that particular server not only store your any kind of an information like your photos, your videos, not just stored, but it also process that thing. So that particular piece of a machine has the processing power as well. That is called your cloud computing. A cloud which can do the calculations, the cloud which can do the, the algorithms and all the tasks you will be allotting to that particular cloud. That's called the cloud computing. Okay. So it's not just about storing the information, that's just simple cloud, but in the cloud computing things, like tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, there is a service in the AWS which is called the EC2, right? Okay, thoroughly I will explain you. Just now you can stick with this particular word which is called the EC2. And what happens in this word EC2 is that, okay, just give me a minute, let me grab my pen and pencil and just let me draw a thing, okay? Because I really love that thing. It's kind of, the increase in interaction. Okay, just give me a minute. Yeah. So there's a service in the AWS which is called this, okay, sorry, EC2, okay, which is kind of a service which helps you in deploying the servers, right? So that's the thing with the EC2, okay? So this particular thing, what happens is that you are just not storing the thing, you are telling to the cloud that these are my particular respective requirement, act according to that particular thing. So cloud computing, there is a thing which is called the cloud, right? Just the cloud, right? So what happens in that particular cloud part? You are storing the information. Okay, fine, no problem with that. Okay, but in the cloud computing, that same piece of an hardware machine or the infrastructure has the capability to, analyze things, do the algorithms, do the calculation. That's called the cloud computing, right? When your cloud can do the work, when it has the CPU capacity and memory capacity and all this kind of calculation, it can do. That's called the cloud computing in a very layman language. Okay, guys? Yeah. Okay, so this is about the cloud computing. Again, remember this thing. Cloud is a kind of, they are both the same, but cloud computing is a kind of a next stage of the cloud. So in the cloud, you store information. In the cloud computing, that particular cloud can now analyze the data. Okay, you can give it command and you can say to that particular cloud within few clicks or putting some kind of a code from any kind of repository like the GitHub and all those kind of things present over the internet. You can just extract it, set up a code, or just click it, and then you are good to go, right? That is your cloud computing. Fine, that's it. So we will be thoroughly explaining, I will be showing this particular cloud computing and how this particular server is created thoroughly, right? That's it. Okay, so now let's move to the cloud architecture, right? So the cloud architecture, particularly, right, in the context of the AWS, first of all, okay, yeah, so the cloud computing, this particular cloud architecture, so it means is that definitely the architect, there could be some, definitely there would be some kind of an architecture in place which will be created by for for this particular cloud part. Okay, yeah, right? So the architecture of the cloud, so we need to understand the architecture, how that particular piece of a car, that cloud is built, right? What are the advantages, what are the disadvantages, how to use that thing, that we discuss in the cloud architecture. Here I am just telling you an overview, just the theoretical part, but as the session progresses, I will be kind of showing you an hands-on thing in the AWS part. Okay, so first thing is very important in the cloud architecture is the infrastructure. No matter who is your vendor, right? For example, we have multiple organization in the market today which deals with providing this cloud computing to the other. They kind of provide the service, right? And you can use it. Okay, so it's kind of a public cloud is there, right? So like AWS is there, Azure is there. There is something which is called the GCP, okay, which is provided by the Google. Azure is provided by the Microsoft, and this AWS is provided by the Amazon. Okay, that's it. And this there is something also with Oracle, Alibaba, and multiple other there. So to work in any of it, first step, the first step should be to understand the infrastructure, right? It's a very, very crucial and a critical thing in anything, any technology that you are very interested in, that you need to understand its infrastructure, it's the basic, how it is built, right? It's really, really help you in that. So in AWS, we can categorize the regions, sorry, the infrastructure, particularly I'm talking now in the context of the AWS. I will be, in the coming days, I will be showing this particular thing as well. Right now, just hypothetical, just theoretical, I'm telling you. The first is the region. Okay, R is just writing the first letter region. Then there's something which is called availability zone. Yeah. So the first in the AWS part, if you talk about specifically to the AWS, right? And then you talk about the architecture of the AWS, the first thing is that it is the region, okay, where from where that particular, AWS is operating, okay, that is your region. Physical location, right? You can go there, particularly you can see the servers running and all this kind of thing. That is the region, right? From where the AWS operates, okay. This is a region. And then after the, the below the region, there is something which is called availability zone, or sometime whether you can see in any kind of a text document, or in an interview you can also see there's something that's called a zone. So availability zone and zone are just the same, not much of a difference is there, okay. Yeah, many people say zone and somebody says availability zone. And then we have something called as the data center. To just summarize what all these things are, these are the building block of your AWS architecture. This region, zone, and data center, right? So what happens? Data center is the place where actual server is kept. So for example, if you are storing any kind of a data in your Google Drive, right? Any kind of your respective Google Drive is there, and you are storing some kind of an information in that particular respective Google Drive. So what is happening there is that you are storing that particular piece of information in the Google Drive. Okay, fantastic, right? Now that is definitely somewhere is going to be, stored. So where it is going to be stored? It is going to be stored in the Google server. Fine, that's it. So that's where, you can say the data center is the place where the servers are kept, and multiple data centers come together. Okay, multiple data center. This is just one piece of a block is a data center, right? And multiple data center come together to form a zone, right? And multiple zones come together to form a region, and multiple regions comes together to form this AWS or Azure or any GCP or any other infrastructure. Okay, that's it. So you can say the servers are the building block of a cloud. Multiple, right? So the place where the servers are kept are your data centers, right? So data centers comes together to form availability zone. Multiple availability zones come together to form the, and multiple availability zones comes together to form the region, and multiple regions comes together to form this AWS infrastructure, right? Almost every vendor you will be seeing, like the Azure, the GCP, all of the cloud provider would be having almost the same infrastructure in place. Not, I would say, like 70 to 80% would be the, same. Okay, that's it. So that's the thing in the cloud infrastructure. Like for example, there is an infrastructure, there is a virtualization, which will be thoroughly I will be explaining, okay, what is a virtualization and all those kind of thing. This is also very important, right? Because it lets you help, to kind of deploy a server, right? Okay, all those kind of things are there in the cloud, in this cloud architecture, which will be in the coming session. I will be explaining you in much more detail. So all those things like the region, availability zone, and the data center that I have just theoretically shown you, I will be showing you in a much more detail. Because for many of you, you are very new to this cloud platform. So that's why I want to start with a, very simple step by step and very with, simple topics, right? That's it. Okay. So let's talk about the cloud advantages, right? So if your organization, okay, finally, right, they are thinking, right, or they are, they have started moving from on-premises to the cloud, right? Your boss is very excited that, okay, now we are moving to the cloud infrastructure, everything, okay, right? That's it. So in the cloud, so first of all, what are the advantages that are related to the cloud part? The first is the scalability. Okay. So first thing is that the scalability. See, if you move from on-premises means your particular, you have that particular piece of a server or that particular piece of an equipment physically present there, right? Okay. So it's physically present there. Nobody is, having any sort of a responsibility. You are the actual person who is going to have a responsibility over there. Okay. So that's called something, that's how in on-premises is, right? It's physically present there, and the physical protection and all this kind of thing is maintenance, right? Repair, update, and all those kind of things. It's your complete responsibility. So there are definitely some positive thing as well as some negative. So, and the the biggest negative thing about the on-premises one is that the plus point is that you have, the security is in your hand. There is a transparency. Okay, you can go and visit your own server. You can see who is, who is accessing and all this kind of thing. But the biggest problem is the cost. Okay, because if you have a server running 24/7 or something like that, okay, any resources running, so definitely it will be consume some kind of a power, electricity. There would be some kind of people you have to hire to maintain it. Sometime, multiple issues can be arising. You have you have to hire a team of engineers to resolve that particular issue. Okay, that is the thing. So many organizations nowadays, they are kind of shifting from on-premises to the cloud part. Why? Because it's quite cheaper to function, or to manage organization, to run your operations when you have a presence or some presence or complete presence of your organizations or their resources in the cloud, right? So let's talk about the one by one. Why people are so much excited about it. The first is the scalability. See here, cloud computing, allows you to easily scale up or scale down computing resources to meet your changing business need, right? So whenever you want, you can increase the resources, and whenever you want, you can decrease it. That's not the case in the on premises. Let's take an example. There are two particular organizations. One organization is having absolutely all the infrastructure of their organization, right, 100% on premises. Okay, no presence in the cloud. Then is another organization which have at least 50 to, you can say, 90% of their operation, of their infrastructure, everything over the cloud, right? Now what happens, there is a huge demand, right? There's some kind of festival season is there, and there is a huge demand, right? Definitely for a short duration of time. Because what happens mostly is that if you go and, in a particular festival seasons, that there is a huge discounts on every piece of an item, particularly the electronics and all this kind of thing. So what happens is that that particular individual which is having a presence in the on premises, what will happen is that definitely he will have to struggle for, expanding his business to, because definitely more and more people would be coming into the market for purchasing and all this kind of thing. So it will be very difficult for him to expand the market. He has to hire new people for a short duration of a day. If the festival season or that particular, festivals last only for 10 to 20 days, so he needs guys, or he needs people, workers, or some kind of temporary storage house for only 20 days. So for that particular individual who is completely relying on an on-premises infrastructure, it would be a very, very difficult thing, right? So but that there is another individual, individual who is completely dependent upon the cloud part, which is completely dependent upon the cloud. 70 to 80% of this business in the cloud part. So when there isn't some kind of a customer is there, and that particular customers or that customer, as I told you that the festival season is of 20 days. So for 20 days, suddenly there is a huge demand in the market. Many people are coming to the market for purchasing and all this kind of thing. So that particular organization who is completely into the cloud can, within few hours, or I would say within few minutes, scale up their resources, right? They can deploy new servers, they can deploy, multiple other resources within few minutes, right? And the biggest disadvantage is that when that particular, after 20 days, that particular sale is over, right? That sale is over, like for example Flipkart or Amazon, that particular sale is over. For that particular individual who is having a presence in the cloud, it would be quite easier for that particular individual to scale down, right? So what he can do is that if on very peak of that festival he was having 10 servers, so what we'll be doing is that he can now and now only he needs 3. So what he will be doing, he will be cutting out or shutting down the rest of the servers, and he will not be charged for that. But that's not the case with an individual who is in on premises. It would be very difficult for that particular person who is in on premises, because to handle this, the server or the customers for the festival season, he has brought 2 brand new servers, right, to handle it. Okay, fine, definitely each cost at least 6 lakh Indian rupees. So he has spent for that exclusive festival season 12 lakh rupees for that particular two servers only. Okay, so now the festival season is gone. Fine. Now after the festival season, he does not need this thing. What he will do? Nothing. Right? He cannot do nothing. Right? So now this particular piece of the servers are the liability. Right? They would be just flying there, and that's it. That could be a huge, huge mistake. Right? That is the biggest advantage. The scalability. If you have presence in the cloud, you can easily increase your resources depending upon your requirement, and you can decrease it depending upon your requirement, right? It's flexible, right? That is the biggest advantage. That's not the thing that you will be able to see when you are completely into the on-premises part. Okay, that's it. Yeah. Now there's something which is called the cost saving. At the starting only, I told you the major advantage when you have is that, see, for example, that particular person who was on premises, he brought 6 lakh, he spent at least 12 lakh rupees, Indian rupees, to buy 2 servers, right? He brought 2 servers, first and second. Okay, definitely he spent 12 lakh rupees. I can deploy in the AWS with that same configuration, and trust me, I can be running for a month, and hardly I will be getting 8 to 9,000. Hardly, even if, again, if the configuration that I will be deploying in the cloud would be high, then, and it will be running 24/7 for completely a month, the hardly I will be getting 8 to 9,000 rupees. Okay, equivalent to that. So you can see a huge how huge that difference is. You are just spending 8 to 9,000 rupees in comparison to 12 lakh rupees, in which this particular 12 lakh the servers to have is permanent, right? These are now the liability. After the session, the holiday season is gone or the festival season is gone, that particular thing is a liability. Okay, and you have to additionally kind of hire people for managing it and all those kind of things. Okay, multiple problems could be there. But if I'm in the cloud part, I can easily, within a few minutes, I will be showing you that particular things. I think tomorrow I will be showing that. Easily I will be creating a server, and right in front of your eyes I will be deploying a server. Okay, with some basic hardware configuration, right? And you can easily see that how fantastic it is. Okay, with just a single few pennies I am able to create a server, right, share it with anybody, and he can access to that, and all those kind of things. I can store some kind of information, all those kind of things. I can do it. I can encrypt it, and the data which is present inside the server, I can encrypt it, decrypt it, right? And all those kind of things I can do. So that's amazing, right? So that's the second benefit we have, which is called the cost saving. So see here, cloud computing allows you to access your application data from anywhere in the world with an internet connection, right? Making it easier to work remotely and collaborate with each other. The best example is Gmail. Okay, so guys, if I want to share you guys with a piece of a document, right, and that particular piece of a document is present in a Gmail, right? So definitely it will be quite easier for me to share it with you. All I need to do is that go to that particular Google, my particular respective Google Drive, go to that particular folder, and there would be a URL link, and I will be sharing with you guys. Fine, that's it. So that's the thing with the cloud and the cloud computing, is that with just all you need is that you need two things. First is the account. You need this A stand for the account part. Definitely you will be needing a account in AWS, which I will be sharing, telling you tomorrow how to create that part, AWS, how to create an account in AWS, which is very, very important initially. Okay. So in the AWS part, the second is thing in the Google, right? So if you want to access any kind of information or you want to store some kind of an information in the Google, so what is there? You have to first create an account. And the second thing is that you should have a good internet connection in order to upload or to download any kind of a file, right? So that's it. So that is another advantage you have over the cloud, the accessibility part, right? Okay, that's it. So scalability is there. Definitely you can increase and decrease based upon your respective requirement. Cost is there. Okay, and accessibility is there. You can share it with anybody. If you have any kind of photos, pictures, or any kind of a file and folder inside the Google Drive, you can easily share it with somebody, or you can even access it, right? So for example, if you have stored some kind of an information in the Google Drive and something happens to your respective laptop or your particular machine, and or you are somewhere else and you want to access that particular field of file, you does not need your laptop or your any kind of machine. All you need is some kind of a phone. Okay, you can even borrow your friend's phone as well, right? Or you go to a nearby any kind of cyber cafe or some like that, and just it should be having. Okay, so what will happen is that this all this kind of thing would be that you will be easily able to share it with your friends, right? That's it. Okay, so you can store it there and you can share it with your friend, and that particular thing I was telling, that you can borrow any individual's uh, phone or go to any nearby cyber cafe or something like that, which is having a good internet connection, and you have the credentials, a username and a password for your Google Drive. You can just completely just go to that particular inside the Google Drive and download a particular document. That's good, right? So accessibility, the cloud increases your accessibility, right? That's it. So anywhere in the world you are, you can access that piece of an information, whether you are in the Singapore, whether in the Japan, or whether you are in the United States or the Canada, anywhere you are, you can easily access the information. Okay, that is the thing. Now let's move to our next advantages, which is the reliability, innovation, and flexibility. Okay, now let's also talk about one by one about them, right? Reliability. So see, you know, definitely there are multiple, like there is a PCI DSS. Okay, yeah. So these other organizations like the PCI DSS or ISO, all these kind of things, what they do is that they kind of do the auditing part of your cloud. Okay, let me draw this particular thing. It could be quite good. Yeah. Okay. Okay, guys. So now see what happens with that. Yeah, perfect, perfect. Okay. So the reliability policy is that the cloud provides you typically the robust security measures, right, and reliable backups to ensure that that data is protected and accessible all the time. So every piece of an information that you are storing in your particular drive, okay, on the AWS we have also kind of a drives as well, which has better security and all those kind of things, which is called with the name of something with the name of S3. Okay, that is something which is called the S3 bucket, and I will be showing you that particular thing as well. So for example, uh, right, just for comparison I'm telling you right now, I will be showing you the hands-on thing as well. So in the reliability part is that every piece of an information, every bit of an information that you are storing in the cloud, that particular cloud individual is saying to you that boss, I am kind of you know um I'm guaranteeing you that if that you are using my particular infrastructure and storing data inside my infrastructure. So what is happening? I will be guaranteeing you that I will be storing that particular information. I will be kind of storing it and protecting and securing that particular thing. There is something which is called the CIA triad, right? Okay, so the cloud say to you that boss, I will be protecting your confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Whenever there is a confidentiality of your data, integrity of your data, it would not be changing, compromise, and availability. Whenever you want, you will be having that piece of a data. So that's the thing, right? That's kind of an assurance provided by the AWS or any kind of a cloud provider, whether it's Azure or Oracle or anything, right? But mostly I will be sticking with the AWS part, right? So in this particular masterclass, you will be getting two exposure to two particular clouds platform, right? AWS and the Azure, right? So the AWS is kind of provided by the Amazon, right? And the yeah, and Azure is provided by the Microsoft. Okay, that's it. So I will particularly focusing on the AWS part, right? Yeah. So what happens is that, okay, now the problem arises. Now the thing is that, okay, now the AWS is saying me that, trust me, okay, Amit, trust me that I will be protecting your data, or the Google is saying me, Amit, trust me that I will be, protecting your data. How would I, trust them? I cannot do any kind of auditing into it, all this kind of thing. I cannot do that, right? There's no transparency. It definitely AWS was not going to, let me even do any kind of pen testing and all this kind of thing, find out the vulnerabilities, right? So that's not they are going to do. Okay. So what actually they, the approach this particular cloud provider they took is that, for example, if this is ISO, okay, what they will be doing is that in order to kind of letting each and everyone going to the AWS platform and doing the pen testing and all, finding the vulnerabilities and patching it out and all those kind of things, what they do is that they approach the ISO or like the the PCI DSS or any other organizations, right? And what they will do, ISO will be doing the auditing, right? First, the AWS will be approaching the ISO, you know, that looks into our infrastructure, right? And tell us what we need to improve. And if everything is fine, we are kind of, fulfilling your requirement. So you can kind of, provide us a certification so that we can also give it to the client. So this is client, or you can say this is a client, this is the client, right? And this is an ISO and the AWS. So the AWS will be approaching to the ISO. ISO would be doing the auditing part, and then it will be providing the certificate, which this particular AWS, this particular piece, AWS would be taking that particular, and the AWS would be having certification. You will can access that as well, right? That's it. Okay, so all those kind of things you are having, right? This is kind of an approach these all the cloud providers have. So because otherwise, see, to try build the trust between the AWS and the client, and there could be like millions and millions of clients could be there. Okay, let's say for example, if there is like let's say there are four clients. Okay, now this particular person goes to the AWS, and then he says to the AWS that, boss, uh, provide me that uh, kind of tell me about your infrastructure, that it is secure and all this kind of thing, right? And the AWS kind of provides back to them somehow some kind of information. Then second, this individual goes to the AWS, then he says to you to provide me some kind of information. AWS again provide him that. So you can see that it is quite difficult for the AWS to request, to fulfill the request of each and every client of the customer, right? To go into the infrastructure and do the pen testing and all this kind of thing. That could be a quite mess. So what the AW does is that it kinds of go to any kind of third party like the PCI DSS, ISO, right? Or multiple, organizations are there over the world, right? Trusted and organizations which kind of do this all the auditing and kind of provide a certification that, okay, this organizations fulfill that these requirements, right? And so we are providing the certification. So when you will be going to the AWS and saying to the AWS that now provide me that your infrastructure is secure, you are using all the security measures, right? You are storing the data in the hash format, and right, not not in the plain text and all this kind of things, or in the encrypted format, and you are using good encryption, all this kind of thing. AWS will be not just taking that particular piece of certificate, right? And just okay. Then we have something which is called the innovation. right? So the cloud provider constantly update and improve their services, give you access to the latest technology and tools without the need of expensive upgrade or installation. So definitely, as I told you, if you want to access that particular piece of a cloud, any cloud provider you want to access, Azure, AWS, GCP, Oracle, Alibaba, anybody, you need two things. Remember this thing: the basic requirement to use a cloud is only two, right? Like for example, okay, like for example, there is a, I'm very fond of playing games, okay, particularly the PC games. So there was a very, yeah, there was a game with the name of God of War Ragnarok, right? And that particular game is a very latest game, and it was having very high configuration. If you want to really, thoroughly enjoy that particular game, the graphics and all those kind of things, what you're going to do is that, you know, uh, your particular system, whether it's a laptop or your particular PC, it should have very high configuration, right? You need some at least like 16 more than 16 GB of RAM and some higher 6 to 8 GB of a graphic card and all those kind of things in order to you know uh, play that particular game. Okay, that's it. But for the cloud, so that's the system requirement, right? If you will be kind of downloading anything into your particular servers or your software, you will be getting something which is called system requirement. Okay, anytime you have kind of played any game or something like that, or you have brought anything, you scroll down, there will be something which is called system requirement, that this piece of an application or this piece of a game would be only running when your particular PC would be fulfilling this particular thing. Like this PC systems which I'm using right now does not have 16 GB of hardware configuration. It has only the 12 GB hardware configuration. So that particular piece of game would be having a lot of problem in running into it. So there is something which is called system requirement. Okay. But in the cloud part, there is nothing such as called a system requirement. Only two things are needed. Only two things. Only two things are needed. The first thing is that, which is called your internet connection. Okay. And the second thing is that your username and a password. Definitely you will be having some kind of a username and a password through which you will be logging into your particular AWS account, right? Okay, so username and a password, only the internet connection password, right? So definitely. And one more thing is that innovation, in this innovation part, they have told that it keeps on updating things. They keeps on catching up with the new technology that is coming up. So for example, if there is a new algorithm in the market, they will be updating their all the resources with the same that algorithm, so you can innovate, right? You can use that particular resource, right, to build something new, right? So particularly for your specific, for yourself or for your organization, right? But this keeps on updating part is kind of a little bit of a curse also, right? Let me tell you that as well. You will not, this is not a kind of a disadvantage, but when you are very new to the cloud part, right, it would be quite challenging for you, right? Let me tell you that. This is not kind of a disagreement I'm telling you or disadvantage, but sort of a problem, right? It will take a time for you, if you are new to the cloud, to kind of get familiar with this thing. Remember this thing, that in the cloud, or as compared to the other technologies, okay, if you want to learn about the Kali Linux part, if you want to learn about red team, blue team, right? If you want to learn about uh, any kind of other things, okay. If you want to learn about the networking part, if you want to learn about the basics of the computers, how the RAM works, right? What is buffer overflow, all those kind of things you want to learn about. There are multiple books present in the market. Okay, you can go and visit that particular books, okay, or you can purchase them in, whether in the hard copy or the digital edition, you can borrow them. But that's not the case in the cloud part. Many of my students, which are when they are very starting, or many of my clients, when they are just starting in the cloud part, majority of them, they do a mistake. The problem with that is that they kind of buy any kind of a book or a study material over the internet, and that is, trust me guys, it's the biggest problem with the cloud part. Because in the cloud, I will be showing you in the coming days, there are thing which is called the documentation. Okay, it's free of cost. Okay, it's absolutely free of cost. You does not need to even create the AWS account or Amazon account, nothing. All you need to do is that you need to have your Google or search engine, your Google, Brave, or multiple others, right? Okay, you can use that. Just type EC2 or that service name, and at the end type documentation and hit enter, and you will be provided multiple links. I think the second or third link you will be getting that AWS part documentation, and everything would be written in that particular documentation. Everything. Okay, that's it. I will be showing you that particular thing, how it's done, but do not try to buy anything, right? That's the thing. So that's the thing they have told, that they keep on talking about the latest technology. So what happens today, you brought something, some kind of a book. Okay, you thought, okay, Amit, we have joined into this masterclass, and now I'm going to move into the cloud part. Fantastic, everything. And this 4 day we will be talking about the this AWS, which I will be telling you about the VPC and databases and all this kind of thing, which I will be showing you. Okay, so you will be having at the end of this part. Yeah, I'm going to repeat the documentation part. Okay, so till the end of the day you will be getting that, at this particular AWS part for the 4 days, you will be getting some sort of a sense that how this particular AWS is. Okay, what it is, what is this VPC part is, how the infrastructure looks like. You will be kind of familiar with it. Okay, you will be kind of comfortable with it. Fine. Then after 4 days you will be having another thing, which is about the Azure part. Okay, that's just also fantastic thing. Then you will be having a kind of an exposure, not a mastery, because this is just a master class. So but you will be having a much more advanced understanding about the AWS as well as the Azure. Even you can start experimenting and start learning, right, from through different materials over the internet, right? Because you will be having enough experience. But most of the things people, what they do is that they kind of bring, or bring or purchase some kind of study material over the internet. Okay, I have seen my students. I have, they keep on telling me that, sir, I was very enthusiastic about the cloud part when this particular the COVID hit. Okay, and I got over the internet, and I brought a kind of a book, right? And it was of 10,000 particularly Indian rupees, and that's a lot of money, okay, for just a book, right? And what happens is that, when he goes through that particular book, after few months AWS changes the info, that particular you can say that particular interface. Okay, so in that particular book it is written that this particular service is working, and this is this. The moment that particular person will be logging into the AWS account, that particular service is gone. The AWS will saying that it is outdated. Now that particular person has been in big trouble. In that particular book there is a complete entire chapter, right? And he has paid 10,000 rupees for that particular book. Okay, and that particular book, there is a complete dedicated, a very important chapter, and now he's logging into the AWS account, and the AWS is saying we does not support this particular resources. Okay, we have additional one to it. So to resolve that kind of things, because AWS keep on changing, remember this thing, the line, right? This latest technology give you an access to the latest technology without, right? This part they keep on upgrading. So also the study materials also keep on upgrading, trust me. So it's absolutely not smart to that you buy or brought any kind of study material. Okay, that's any kind of book or something like that, I'm telling you. Okay, that's it. So what is happening in that particular thing is that you can, there is something which is called the documentation. Okay, all you need to do is that go to the Google, write any kind of resources like the EC2, right? And in front of it write the documentation. Okay, and hit the enter, and it will be providing with everything from the basic to the advanced part about everything. And very important thing is that those documentations are maintained and managed by the AWS themselves. So let me tell you, let me draw a diagram which will be easily simplifying it. This is the AWS. Okay, the same AWS is providing you the service, this SES service, and the same AWS is providing you the documentation. So any changes they made in the services, they are kind of adding something new or deleting something new, they will be changing the changes in the documentation. Okay, that's it. And it's absolutely free of cost, does not need to pay any penny, right? So that's the thing, that they are very serious about just improving the services and access to the latest technology. So they keep on upgrading it, right? Yeah, the flexibility. Okay, now let's talk about the flexibility part. See, the cloud computing, it allows you to choose from variety of deployment models, such as public, private, hybrid, right? Hybrid cloud and all this kind of thing to meet your specific, business requirement. Okay, to meet your specific business requirement, they can, you can choose whether a public. Okay, this is a public cloud. This piece is the public cloud, right? If you're not familiar with the public cloud part, I will be telling you where the public cloud is. Okay, so this is the public cloud, right? And what will be happening is that you can use this particular platform, public cloud, for some days. You are good with it. Now you want to switch to the private, you can also do that. So that kind of flexibility you have in the cloud as well, right? That's the thing. Okay, so you can choose based depending upon your requirement, right? To meet your specific business needs, right? So you can change according to that. It's a very, very important thing. That's not the kind of thing you will be getting when you will be focusing on the that infrastructure service. Okay, okay. So with the cloud computing, you can quickly and easily spin up your new resources or application responding to the changing business needs, right? Or the market condition. As I told you in the first example only, that you have, there is a festival system festival season coming up, right? And that particular festival system, there's a two individual. One individual is having on premises infrastructure, another individual is having a cloud infrastructure. So that particular person who has a presence in the cloud, it is very easy for that particular persons to manage, things. Trust me, right? It's very easy. You can deploy it any resource, you can remove it, you can do whatever you want, right? You can experiment with it. If something goes wrong, you can contact the AWS. You can contact the AWS, support team, and say to them, I am done this particular thing. I'm in a mess. Can you help me with it? They will be, resolving your particular mess, right? That's the thing. So all this kind of thing, it is provided by the AWS. Okay. Then there's something which is called the collaboration part. Collaboration, right? So for example, this particular cloud part, they kind of increase the collaboration. Okay, so it kind of increase the collaboration between the team members across different location and time zone, right? And it kinds of make it easier to work together and share the information. So what can happen here is that, like, let's say for example, there are two organizations, right? And that particular two organization, one organization is like, you know SpaceX, right? A very famous organization, okay, which is present currently operating in the US, right? Which has different time zone, different location, and all this kind of thing. And there is something which is called another organization currently in India with the name of ISRO. Okay, so what is happening is that both the organizations, which are present in different time zone and different, location and different continent, they are very far apart. How they can collaborate together and do something, right? So what can happen is that if they do not, completely go into the cloud platform, so how they will be functioning? First, there would be some kind of a research and development in the SpaceX part, okay, right? And now what we'll be doing is that they want to share, they both, the ISRO as well as the SpaceX, are working on a kind of a, new project. Okay, they're working together in a collaborative effort. They are doing working together, any kind of a new project. So this SpaceX kind of makes some kind of a changes, or you can some kind of innovation or anything, right? And they want to share that particular piece of a code with the ISRO. So if they do not use any cloud platform, trust me, what they will be doing is that they will be taking a physical hard disk or a hard drive and storing the information there, right? Punching it there, injecting it in that particular hard disk or hard drive, then physically exporting through the ship or through the planes to the India, and then it will be going to the ISRO, and then they will be attaching to their particular respective laptops, then viewing that particular piece of a code or the design, then kind of agreeing on it, or telling that what you need to change, right? All this kind of thing, that sending it back. It So that particular piece of a project where SpaceX and ISRO is working together, it will takes months and months, right? Even years to complete, right? This was the one first. There is another situation where what can happen is that both are at different time zone, different location, different continent. Now what happens is that both comes together and build a private cloud, right? where both, or you can say, a kind of a community cloud, right, where both comes together, right, and both are sharing the information, right? Nobody else outside, except these SpaceX and Isro can access that particular infrastructure, and both can easily, share the information. Definitely, it's improved the collaboration a lot, right? The speed of the particular project and all those kind of things, it is increased a lot, right? That is the collaboration, right? Then there is something which is called the disaster recovery, right? The AWS definitely for sure, whether it's AWS, whether it's Azure or any other cloud platform, it definitely increases your appetite, or you can say its power to absorb the impact of any kind of a disaster, right? Okay. How the one of the best example is to take a backup, and in the AWS there is something which is called, you know automation. Okay, you can kind of set a automation of taking a backup, right? That at regular interval of a time, let's say for example, every day, every single day, right, for 1 year, you can set that every day take two backups, first at 9 a.m. and then you can also set, you have that even a, that you have so much of a control that even you can set that after 12 hours take another backup. So if first backup is taken today at 9 a.m. and another backup is taken at 9 p.m. at the same day, right? So definitely it's kind of increases, the possibility that even if any kind of a disaster struck, you will still, in a very short period of time, you will be able to, uh, you will be able to run your organization, right? The operations would be running. Okay. So the recovery from the disaster would be greater, right? That's it. But as compared to the individual who is having a absolutely a present into the on-premises one, it will even take him, at least year, or at least 8 to 9 months, right? That's for sure. If that it's a very severe disaster, definitely for sure, it will take 6 to 7 months or even a year for that particular organization, which is completely relying on the on-premises one. Okay, that's it. Because they, it is kind of possibilities that, uh, you know, uh, the data, even the place where they have taken the data would be some kind of, damaged. That could be also there, right? But that's not the case in the cloud part. If I'm working in the organization like in the InfosecTrain, okay, and this session is running, this session is kind of recorded and this particular thing is being sent to the cloud part, so the recording would be actually present in the cloud part, right? So if something happens to this particular internet connection or this particular machine, or this laptop from which I'm taking the session, something happens to that, still the recording would be present there, and anybody and any one of you could easily get an access to that particular piece of recording. No problem with that. Okay, that's it. Even that the particular building which I am right now, even that particular collapse, my system particularly, it's not functioning, my hard disk fails, anything happens, because this particular piece, this session is not recorded in my laptop, it is recorded in the cloud, right? So if any disaster struck right now, and natural or any kind of a man-made, okay, still you will be able to get a recording part, right? And tomorrow we will be starting the session from there. Okay, if that's a thing, right? That's the thing with the disaster recovery. So if I tell you this is the particular thing in a real life scenario, recently, 2 3 months ago, there was a huge earthquake in Syria and Turkey, right? So what is that? There was definitely a massive earthquake in the Turkey and Syria, and many people were like, lost their lives, and there was a huge damage to the, infrastructure. And many organizations that were working there, and they were completely on premises one, right? So they were having the data also of their client, their customers, right, of their employees on the on premises only, right? So they were taking the backup, but the problem was that even that particular storage place where the backups were taken, the servers, they were also damaged. So retrieving the data from the servers which were completely dedicated for the, you know, backups, it's kind of thing in the on-premises one. Okay, and it could be very challenging for thing, and the recovery would be hardly it would be 50, 60 if they're even, if they're lucky, right? But at the cloud part, if you have, the cloud part, trust me, if something happens to this particular session, still the recording is there, right? Even if there's some kind of fire is there, my hard disk completely fails, my system is not able to boot up, my operating system, just crashes, or something happens, anything happens, okay, still that particular recording would be present in that particular cloud. And anybody with definitely, okay, so definitely you need to have a permissions from that particular, vendor who is providing you the authorized to access that particular file. If he is providing you that particular piece of an information, a proper kind of piece of information, permissions, right? So that from anywhere in the world you can access that particular session. Okay, that is called the disaster recovery, right? Easily you can recover from that particular disaster. Then we have something which is called environment sustainability. Okay, so like nowadays there is a lot of talk about, right? So what is if something happens, nowadays there is a lot of talk about the, that protecting the environment and all those kind of things. And whenever the experts look into what are the major industries in place which kind of, increases the carbon footprint of the earth or emits huge, heat, so definitely the data centers is also one of the culprit, right? Data centers, right, they exhaust, they kind of release a lot of heat uh, to their environment. Okay, because in order to, because see, for that particular server where your actual data is, right, in a Google Drive on the AWS, definitely that particular, would be present somewhere, right? Definitely, for sure. So what was happening is that in that particular server, in an order to function that particular server to work properly, to upload data or to, download data, do the modification, anything, there should be an optimal temperature where that particular server would be working properly. Okay, that should be there. Fine. Now what happens is that in that particular, environment, what they, this particular technicians or the expert, what they do is that to reach that optimal temperature, they kind of keep that particular servers in a kind of an air conditioner room, or a kind of a room where they can control the temperature, where they can increase the humidity, decrease it, and all those kind of things. You can do that. Okay, so what we'll be doing is that they will be draining out all the heat out of that particular room and making it to an optimal temperature, neither cold, neither too hot, just an optimal temperature where they would be easily able to, that particular piece of a server would easily able to work properly, right? That's it. So when you move to, this particular cloud computing, you can, it's environmental sustainable, right? More and more, right? So like, for example, so this was a older thing, right? So like the data centers were the kind of a culprit behind that. They emit a lot of heat and all those kind of things, a lot of energy goes into it. But now the Google and the Apple has come forward, right? So now they have talked about that they are now switching into using greenhouse, resources in place to kind of, use electricity to cool down their servers or their particular rooms where they keep the servers, right? All those kind of things, right? So definitely it's environmental sustainable, right? If they use it with the renewable resources. Okay, if you're just using it servers with the, you know air condition, all those kind of things, so no, it's not, it will not be environmental sustainable, right? That's the thing. This is just an additional part I have told you, this environmental sustainable part. This is definitely not going to ask you in any kind of an exam or interview. But these reports keeps on coming in about the Apple, Google, and Alibaba, I think, yeah. So they keep on making the promises that they are keep on switching their, the servers in the data centers into the more renewable part. Okay, that's it. Okay, guys. So now, guys, let's talk about cloud service model, right? There are different type of cloud service models which are present. Okay, so let's talk about this. These three, the IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, right, are very important. Okay, right? IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS are very, very important. So what is happening is that, first of all, before even have an understanding about before going to the IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS part, let me tell you about these all those things. So see, in front of your screen in the on-premises one, you will be seeing four column. This four in a diagram. There four rows are there: on-premises, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. So before jumping into this IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS and telling you what it is, what it's all about, let me tell you first about the on-premises one. So if your infrastructure is completely on-premises, we're taking the backup that is also present on the on-premises. There is a, a second floor or third floor or nearby your office. There's a place physically where the data is kept stored. Okay, and your organization is maintaining and all those kind of things are there. Okay, so it's on premises. So if your organization is working in on premises, so see, there are networking, you can see multiple blocks there, right? Application, data, runtime, middleware, OS, virtualization, servers, storage, networking, multiple blocks are there. These each blocks, or you can say these each component kind of make the complete infrastructure of any organizations. Okay, any organization, whether it's even it's IT or it's non-IT organization, right? The application data, because at the end of the day, definitely that particular organization would be making some kind of a data, not accessing it, but definitely in some way they will be kind of creating the data. Okay, so this is kind of a components which we'll be using in the on-premises one. So see here, there is a networking part, there's a storage, there is servers, virtualization, operating system. So if your infrastructure is completely on premises, so this you have to build the networking by yourself. Okay, you have to maintain the networking by yourself, you have to edit it, you have to resolve this, you have to do everything by yourself. You have to even hire people, right? Experts, you can say, right? Not just a fresher or any other individual, with the experts who have at least a 5 to 6 or 8 to 9 years of an experience. So definitely if an individual has an experience of 8 to 9 years, definitely for sure that particular individual is going to charge you a lot, right? And so now see, you have to lose the money in that particular to run only the networking part. Then you have the storage part to run and operate the networking component. Then you have storage. Then you have to take about the storage part, how the data that you are processing or coming into your organization, what about that particular storage? Then there is something which is called the servers as well. You have to maintain the servers as well, that the server should be running at an optimal temperature, right? If something goes wrong, who how to resolve that particular issue. If there is any kind of a ransomware attack to a server, how to resolve that thing as well, right? If sometime suddenly there is some kind of a fire or short circuit, something like that, right? Or some kind of hardware of a server fails, right? What to do that? There's a virtualization which I will thoroughly explaining you. Okay, if you're not familiar with virtualization, it means kind of creating a virtual copy of something. Okay, and there's an operating system. You have to take care of the operating system, you have to patch it up, right? If there's any kind of a vulnerability present in your operating system, you have to patch it by yourself, all of the and install it, right? Okay, all of these components, it's your headache. You cannot blame anybody, you cannot uh, it's it's all up to you. Okay, it's now completely your responsibility. And one more thing is that in the on premises, there can be also multiple advantages as well as disadvantages, which I start at the beginning of the session. I told you guys the biggest advantage is the security you have over the on premises. Definitely multiple cost would be there. The cost of the running of of these all this thing by yourself and hiring people would be tremendously high, right? It would be absolutely very high, right? About it. But the the worst part about this operation part is the cost, and the good part is the security. Okay, fine. Now you think that we should move to the IS part. Now in the IS, this is some IS which is called the infrastructure as a service. What happens in that, see, there I have told about that you have networking, storage, all these things you have seen. The blue box are the major critical components. Okay, very important thing. These are the major components that any organization needs to work properly. So when we go to the IS part, all the boxes that you're seeing in the blue, Just give me a minute. Just let me throw this way, right? All the things that you're seeing by the blue, right? Here it is written managed by you, right? So all the blue part in the IaaS is managed by you. The operating system is managed by a, we manage it, right? The runtime, the middleware, the data application. Okay, what is an application? Whether it's a Python, okay, the data it is created, the code it is creating, right? The running, okay, all of it is our headache. But the storage, if something happens, the if you want to store something, it is the headache of the cloud provider. So the red part is, as you can see in the diagram, it is written managed by the vendor, or you can say managed by your cloud vendor, like AWS, Azure, GCP, okay, Oracle, Alibaba. All those are the cloud vendor. Multiple are there, right? If you go over the internet, you can say multiple and multiple are there. But basically, there are three leaders, right? Okay, very, very important thing I'm telling you. There are three leaders in the cloud platform. First is the AWS. It was the pioneer. It was the first organization which started it. Okay, that is the AWS, which started the cloud part. Okay, and now it's still leading it, right? Still today they still hold 60% of the market of the cloud part, right? And second comes the Azure, which is by the Microsoft, and third comes the GCP, which is by the Google. Okay, so these three are the players, top players in the market, right? And then comes the Oracle and the Alibaba and all those kind of things. Okay, yeah. So in the IaaS part, all the components that you're having it, only you need to worry about the operating system, the middleware, the runtime, the data application, your code, all of these things you need to worry about. Rest of the thing, like the storage of it, the networking part, the servers, the maintenance of the servers, it's completely the headache of the AWS or that your respective vendor which you are using at that particular moment of a time, right? That's it. So that is your you know uh, this IaaS. Okay, there's a service which is specifically which is called your EC2, right? Multiple times in today's session only I have to use this particular term EC2, which I will be showing you, right? And it's a very fantastic thing. Okay, you are going to love it, which helps you in creating the servers, right? Within only 2-3 clicks, and you will be first deploying your own servers. Okay, so that's the thing. Yeah, so that is the thing which will be using it. And so that's why I need you guys to pay attention in this particular thing which I'm explaining, IaaS, PaaS and SaaS, right? So, and I will be showing you that particular thing, EC2. So you will able to quite correlate with the topics that I'm right now telling you, right? Okay, so again guys, got it, that the things which are in the red, those components are the responsibility of your vendor right now in the case of the AWS or anybody else. And the components which are in the blue, the operating system, the middleware, the runtime, the data application, all of the components are your responsibility. If something happens to your particular piece of a code, some kind of vulnerability is present in your particular piece of a code, it is not the responsibility of the cloud provider. Remember this thing, right? Remember this thing. It is not the responsibility of your cloud provider. It is your responsibility. So if you drag your cloud provider to the code that my lord, I trusted a particular this cloud provider, the AWS or Azure, and I have stored my client data into his account, into his data, infrastructure, and now his infrastructure is compromised, or my data is leaked, right? So if you are using the IaaS, infrastructure as a service, trust me, definitely for sure, the AWS would having no blame to share, right? It would be the only responsibility, it would be completely your responsibility. Okay, remember these things, right? Okay, yeah. So now we have something which is called the PaaS. Okay, PaaS stand for platform as a service, right? PaaS stand for platform as a service. So what happens in the PaaS part, as you can see, the numbers of this red blocks has increased, okay, and the blue dot has decreased, and only you have two blue box are the components of an infrastructure where uh, they as an individual we have a control over it, right? So in the past, only we have a control over the application which we are deploying. Okay, there's a service in the AWS which is called the Elastic Beanstalk, right? What happens in that particular thing is I'm theoretically telling you. So in that particular thing which is called the Elastic Beanstalk, what happens there is that you does not go and deploy any server or anything. What you do is that you take a piece of your, you go to that particular uh, Elastic Beanstalk, right? There you will be first, they will be asking you the name of what you that the machine you are going to uh, run. Okay, the environment. Then they will be asking you the environment, or you can say the platform on which you have built that particular piece of a code. For example, if you are deploying a website, definitely if you have written some kind of JavaScript, okay, so you will be writing that JavaScript or a Python or something like that, and then the version of that, and then you will be uploading your piece of a code, okay, and then that particular thing would be running. So you does not need to worry about creating the servers. You does not need to worry about the maintaining the servers, anything. You only need to worry about two things: your JavaScript or the Python piece of a code which will be you have used for creating that particular your particular website. Okay, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, the combination of it, you will be uploading those kind of files there. Okay, and then what you will be doing is that you know and you will be telling them which platform you are, and you're good to go. Fine. And rest of in background, the storage of that, all those individuals who will be coming, or the traffic that is going to come to that particular website, okay, or any kind of data that is stored in that particular website, all would be the headache of the cloud provider, right? So the cloud, it's now the responsibility of the cloud provider to store the data in a very beautiful way, or even in a good way, or to kind of in a such a way that it's kind of it's kind of the data has been hashed, converted into hash format, not in a plain text. Okay, password, it's very important that you convert the password from a plain text to that hash format and then store in the database, all those kind of things. So even if your database is compromised, still the system, the attacker would not be able to steal this, right? That's it. That is the pass, where you have a control over the application and the data. You do not even have the control over the operating system, or even the data, or servers or networking. Okay, that's it, right? And there is something which is called the SaaS, software as a service. In the software as a service, right, everything is being controlled or managed by the cloud provider. The best example of this SaaS is your Facebook. Okay, the best example of it. You are just a customer there, right? Definitely there would be a piece of a code, okay, the source code, right, would be there. Okay, so definitely we cannot make any kind of a changes inside the any kind of source code or anything like that, right? Okay, that's it. That comes under the SaaS part. Yeah, Google Drive and all those kind of things all comes under the SaaS, right? Software service. Okay, so all these components which are important for your uh, organizations to run, right, like networking, storage, service, virtualization, operating system. So let's start to like I had told you an example of Facebook. Okay, so the Facebook, you does not, like for example, if you have a kind of account in the Facebook, right, and you once you logged into it, okay, so definitely you does not worry about or take care of the networking part, or you does not worry about about the storage part, because it's completely the responsibility of the cloud provider. Okay, like in the Google Drive on the Microsoft 360. Okay, anything like that. So you're just using it. You, other than that, you cannot, you have no control over that particular thing. Okay, so these are the cloud service models, different type of it. Okay, in the IaaS, what will happening is that you have just a control over the operating system. You have the control over the operating systems part, right? The data, the application you can install, all this kind of thing you have. In the past, you have only control over two things: right? The application and the data, the application which you want to run, and the data, right, which will be generated, you have control over that only in the PaaS part. And third, in the SaaS part, every component that you will be getting, okay, that particular, all the components would be the responsibility of the cloud provider. Okay, that is. So this is the cloud service model. Okay, guys. So now we have something which is called the cloud, sorry, cloud deployment model, right? Again, a very interesting thing. So based upon your particular respective requirement, what you will be doing is that you have something which is called the cloud deployment model, right? Okay. So the cloud deployment model. So after this, this in this cloud deployment model, right, we have four components: public cloud, private cloud, community cloud, and hybrid cloud, right? And let's discuss one by one about all of these four components. The first is the public cloud. So what is happening in the public cloud? So in the public cloud, right? So again, one more thing, we have categorized all these components, the public, the private, the community, and the hybrid, based upon the requirement. Okay, based upon, you can say, you know, based upon our requirement, right? So on basis of that, okay, we did it. So in the public cloud, what is there in the public cloud? It is that particular piece of an architecture, or that particular, cloud is anybody can use it, right? You can use it, I can use it, right? It's public, right? Anybody can use it. Let's say, for example, like our AWS, okay? Or let's say, for example, okay, forget about the AWS and this GCP part for a minute. Let's talk about the Gmail. Okay, you can say that Gmail is also part of, or particular Gmail, you can say the Google Drive. It's part of a, this particular public cloud. Anybody can create an account there, right? Okay, anybody can create an account, use it. Okay, and if you want to exceed your limit, like right now it's in the Google, it's, I think in the Google Drive you have 15 GB of free limit for account, you can exceed it. Okay, that's it. So you can do it anybody. So that's the public. Anybody can come there, kind of rent resources and deploy it. Okay, and use it. And after, when he has, all his requirements are fulfilled, he can just completely remove that particular applications, and then he's good to go, right? That is something which is called the public cloud. Let me tell you another example of the public cloud. Okay, like guys, we have hotels. Okay, so the initial cost of creating a hotel, right, is very high, right? The initial cost of creating a hotels is absolutely, it's a lot. Like, it's in crores. Okay, so definitely, if any one of you is going to go for a, for a day or two in a hotel, right, and he wants to rent it, right, for a room, okay, for a one to for a week. Okay, so it doesn't means that, you will be paying for all the infrastructure. You will just be paying for that hours, or for that particular piece of a date, for that duration of time, till you will be using that particular resources, right? That is the public cloud. Anybody can go to the hotel, rent a room, right? Okay, anybody can go there, rent a room, and uh, use their services, and will be charged being, they will be charging you based upon that, and you're good to go, right? And after a week, when you are, you're done with your particular job or task, whatever you want, and then you will be coming it back, and that's it. That's public. Anybody can go there, particularly in that particular infrastructure, but the public cloud or public services, anybody can use it. Anybody can, um, use it, right? That's the public cloud. Okay. Then there's something which is called the private cloud. Now the thing is that, you know, okay, the advantage of the cloud, the public cloud is that, first of all, it is very, cheap. Okay, trust me. See, if you have a hotel, okay, and it has taken crores of rupees to build that particular hotel, so definitely, if you are staying in that particular hotel for in a room for a week, so definitely hardly it will be going to thousands. And it's, if it's 4-star or 5-star hotel, so definitely it will go even, for even lakhs also, right? That's going to also be a thing. But you are not paying for everything, right? As compared to the initial cost for that particular hotel, and maintaining it, and providing the money for the staff, their salaries and all this kind of thing. You're just paying for the resources that you have used, not the initial, not every cost, not the cost of the land, okay, that the operational cost of that maintenance, all those things, you're not paying it, right? Okay, that's the public. It's very cheap because it has been used by multiple peoples, right? So that particular cost is kind of divided into multiple peoples. Like if like there is hundreds of rooms present in your public cloud, okay, in kind of a hotel, okay, and hundreds of people are living in that particular hotel, so definitely the cost which was initially a huge would be divided into hundred of people, right? So definitely one particular person has a less load to carry. Yeah, so from that perspective it is quite cheap. Okay, this is it. This is kind of your public cloud. Anybody can use it, anybody can uh, you know create an account into it, into the public cloud part, like the AWS, Azure, Oracle, GCP. Okay, these are all the public cloud where anybody can go and create an account, no restriction into that part. Then there is something which is called the private cloud. Okay, private cloud is the cloud which is absolutely private, as the name suggests. Let me tell you an example. In this InfosecTrain that, in the working organization that I'm working on, we have a private cloud. Okay, but the thing is that the very interesting thing about that particular cloud is that that cloud exists, right? All the trainers can access that particular piece of information. Like if I, right now I'm in Uttarakhand, okay, and if I can go to another part of the, Bangalore or Delhi or somewhere else, I can still access the resources, internal resources of my organization. Okay, some kind of a book, studying material about any kind of a new course or something like that, right? Or if I want to share some kind of a documents with my juniors or with my seniors, senior trainers, right? So I can do that inside through using that particular internal cloud, or you can say something using the private cloud. Any one of you just give me. Any one of you would not be, would not be able to use that particular private cloud. That's the most interesting part, right? So the cloud exists there, right? So the cloud really have the physical presence there. But the thing is that the most interesting thing about, the most important interesting thing is that anybody who is not part of that particular infrastructure would not be able to access that particular thing. Okay, so there is a, if some somebody is from outside, okay, he does not belong to the infosec train, so what is going to happen is that that particular person would not be able to you know uh, access the infrastructure or the resources and all those critical and crucial things, right? Document all those kind of things of the organization. That's called the private cloud. It's completely private. And the thing is that it is managed by us only. We also take care about that particular cloud, right? We have people, right? And I also take care of the cloud part, right? So that, all the database and all those kind of things keep on working smoothly in the backend, right? Okay, that is called your private cloud. So we take care of that particular cloud, right? And it is used by us only, the infosec people. Okay, that's the private cloud. And if you want to relate to the real life example of this private cloud, I would say like your private car, okay, or your house. The house you are living, okay, it is created by you, and at the end of the day you are only going to take care of it. Definitely your guest would be coming it, right? But at the end of the day, you are the nurturer of that your house, and you are taking care of that house, right? Okay, that is your private cloud. And the public cloud is when you go to any kind of hotel or something like that, and you rent it, okay, for a duration of a time. You will be charged for that duration, and then you can come, no problem with that. Okay, but the problem here in the private cloud is everything is fine in the private cloud. First of all, the advantage, a major advantage of the private cloud is that, security is the highest. Okay, because see, we are not relying on anybody else. We are not relying on the AWS. We are not relying on the Azure. We are not relying on the GCP. We have created our own database, internal database. We keep information about the customers, the clients, in a very, very secure manner. Okay, about in that particular database, right? So if you want to, kind of help them out, okay, to reach them, we can do that. Okay, so in a very, very secure format we do that. right? And what we do also do that we manage by ourselves. We does not do rely on any third party. Okay, that's the thing. But the biggest disadvantage of a private cloud is that, the biggest advantage is the cost. The cost is absolutely very high. Okay, as compared to the public cloud, the private cloud, the cost is very high. As compared, I told you, is if you compare it with your house. In your house, you know, uh, you created that particular house, right? And you are maintaining it. Okay, so the initial cost would be very high. Same with the cars. If you have a private car, okay, any private cars or any private vehicle, so definitely you are buying it for yourself and you have to maintain it, so initial cost would be very high, right? That's it. So that is something which is called your private cloud. There is another thing which is called your community cloud. Okay, this is your private cloud. Okay, then there's something which is called your community cloud. So what happens in the community cloud is that, guys, in the community cloud, what really happens that people who kind of are working in the same community, they come together, okay, and they work together to form a community, and they kind of create a cloud. Let me tell you example. Let me simplify the particular thing. Okay, so let's say there are three banks. Okay, let me draw this particular thing. Let's take an example. This is the first bank, okay, in India. This is the second bank, and this is the third bank, right? Okay, this is the three banks in India. Okay, all right. So now what is happening in that particular thing? Now this is an example of the community cloud, right? I'm telling you. So these three clouds are there. Now what is happening is this: these three banks are not able to create the private cloud. Okay, they think that we are a bank, okay, and the data we are holding about our customers is very crucial. We cannot go for the public cloud because in the public cloud, trust me, security is not so good. Okay, there are some kind of problems with that also. Okay, but right, so we want to go for the private cloud, right? But the thing is that, you know if you go for the private cloud, the cost is very high and we cannot afford it. So if the bank first think that, I cannot go for the private cloud, security is good. Security is a very good point of the private cloud, but they cannot go and create a private cloud separately. So what they do is that they come together. They are very, determined that they want private cloud only. They want to switch to the cloud and they want to go, and use private cloud only, not the public cloud. So what they do is that they kind of join head together, right? They're saying that, okay, if one, you know, if like one by one we go, right? Or, kind separately we create a private cloud, it would be hell of an expensive. So what are we doing is that we are collaborating together. So all these three banks, the first, second, and third, would be collaborating and creating a private cloud which will be accessible by only these three individuals, right? So you can say you know a community cloud is also a private cloud, right? But the thing is that in the community cloud, majorly that particular private cloud is managed by a community. Okay, so here in this particular example, the community is the bank. Okay, so three banks are there. They have created a kind of a community, and that particular community, is kind of working together to create a private cloud. So definitely, what would be, the uh, if like that particular one bank alone, right, which was kind of creating the private cloud, and it was, let's say, 10 lakh rupees, okay, Indian rupees, initially, in order to function. So if that particular three banks comes together, so definitely it would be like 3 lakh 50,000 rupees or something like that would be divided among them. Okay, that could be thing. So it would be quite cheaper as compared to the 10 lakh rupees. Now only 3 lakh and 50,000 rupees for one bank. Okay, so it's quite cheap, right? That's it. And if multiple other banks, like 3 4 more banks comes together, the cost in even reduce a lot, right? That's the thing. So that is your community cloud, right? Using the private cloud, creating a private cloud, but inside a community. Okay, not accessed by only one individual, but by a community. So The security is good, perfect. The community cloud also security, it's spot on. And there is transparency also, fine. And the problem that was with the private cloud, the huge cost, but also resolved in the community cloud. So community cloud has kind of, public, the best of both worlds. The public cloud, which is cheap, anybody can you do it, particularly if you are, right. And the second is with the private cloud, you know um, hybrid cloud is also a combination of the public as well as the private cloud, right? Hybrid. Okay. So what happens in the hybrid cloud is that, for example, okay. So for example, in this hybrid cloud part is that, let's say, for example, okay, now there is an organization, let's say this InfosecTrain, or let's say Amazon.com. Okay. So there's an organization with the name of very famous organization, e-commerce website, Amazon.com. And there is a festival season nearby in India. Okay. And that particular Amazon.com is kind of, working. Okay. And they have kind of, you can say, they have kind of created their own private network. Okay. In which they have kind of, sharing the critical information about their employees and all this kind of thing, which is not accessible by the public, but it is maintained by the Amazon. So what happens is that Amazon, which is having an own private network, what it is doing is that that particular thing, for short duration of a time, for 5 to 10 days, what they need is that they want to access, they want to kind of, want for only for short duration of time, like for example for a month or for a week, they want some additional resources, right? But they do not want to rent it. Okay, so if the cost of one server would be like 10 lakh rupees, a good server with very good hardware configuration would be 10 lakh rupees, or with Amazon or any other organization like the Infosec also, if you want to use for only 5 to 10 days, why will be spending 10 lakh rupees? I know that Infosec has a very, private cloud, right? Because the security is as uttermost important thing to us. But we have a requirement for only 10 days, right? Not for a long duration of time, but only for a short duration of time we have a requirement. And the requirement is that we need a server with a very high configuration, and the configuration cost would be at least 10 lakh rupees. Fine. That's the thing. We only need for 10 to 20 days. So in that particular case, what we'll be doing is that we will be kind of creating using the public cloud, right? We will be having our own, private cloud, but we will be a little bit using the public cloud as well for that particular 10 to 20 days. So I will be creating some servers, right, with the same hardware configuration, which we're actually going to buy. I will be going to the AWS and kind of creating the AWS, there's something which is called the VPC, virtual private cloud. So I will be using that thing, right? And there I will be creating my own servers and all those kind of things. And then I will be attaching it to my, this AWS infrastructure, private infrastructure. So I will be using, the private cloud as well as some kind of resources of the public cloud, right? That's called your hybrid cloud. Okay. The combination of your public as well as the private. Okay, guys, this is your cloud deployment model. In the public cloud, it's for everybody. The AWS is a public cloud, right? Anybody can do it. Private cloud is, it's for very specific people, right? And the community is that it's for the community. Okay, community, maintain that particular cloud, right? And the data is shared between the community, and the they kind of look after each other. The cost is distributed among themselves, right? And there's something which is called the hybrid cloud. And the hybrid cloud, what happens, you have the private infrastructure at the first place, but what happens as you only have a very short demand and you does not want to go and buy anything, okay, you kind of switch to the public for a few for a short duration of a time, and then you switch back completely to the private part. Okay, this is your hybrid cloud. Okay, so definitely you are sharing the responsibility. Okay, so definitely see, at the end of the day, you are using Gmail services or something like the AWS, the Azure, or the Oracle, anybody your resources you're using. What you are doing at the end of the day, what you are doing is that you are kind of storing that particular piece of an information into there system, right? Like in the previous slides that I've shown, in this particular IS, PaaS, and SaaS. In ISC, what is happening is that you are using creating the data, you are processing and everything you are doing, but at the end of the day, the data is being stored by, it's been managed and encrypted and all those kind of things, it is the completely the responsibility of the cloud service provider. See, it is the responsibility of it, right? Okay, this is it. Now, really, what happens here in this particular case is that when they share responsibility, what happens, see, you kind of set a matrix between, right? You define the responsibility both for the cloud service provider and the CU, the cloud user. This is us, right? The CU, wherever you see CU, it means the person who is using that particular cloud platform. And CSP is the cloud service provider. It means that particular platform which you are using, the GCP, Azure, Oracle, anything, right? Which ensure the security and compliance services. So if something happens to your particular data or something like that, you definitely, there should be some kind of a responsibility, okay, that who is going to care about which one. The first is the data security. See, so the data security is a key shared responsibility. It is a kind of metrics between the CSP and the CU. So the CSP, right, you know, it's kind of, it's responsible for providing the secure infrastructure, right? And the CU, the person who is going to use that particular platform, is responsible for securing, securing the stored data in the cloud, such as, managing access control, which is through the IAM, identity and access management, right? It's a very, very important thing, which I will be showing you, right? Identity and access management, which in short, I'm telling you right now, IAM, what we do is that we kind of, control who can access the resources and who cannot access the resources, right? So that's the thing. That's what it's telling about the data security, right? The responsibility for the provider is, a secure infrastructure, and about the cloud individual, the cloud provider, and your responsibility is, right, of this IAM, right, and the encryption part. Then there is something which is called the access management. Okay, so access management and another share responsibility matrix. And what happens here is that the cloud service provider is responsible for providing the secure access control system, right? He is responsible for providing the secure control access system, while CU means you, the person who is going to access that, he is responsible for managing access to their own resources and data. Again, same thing, the IAM part. You are responsible for managing your data, who is going to access your information, right? All this kind of thing. At the end of the day, in a very short language, you are kind of setting up a responsibility. If something happens to my particular data, or there's any kind of a breach, or like, let's say, for example, there is a bank. Okay, so damn bank has a very critical and crucial information about their client and the customers, right? The education qualification, right? Their, like in India, we have Aadhaar card. In the US, we have social security number, all these kind of critical things, right? Multiple things are there. So definitely, if the cloud, if the bank goes to any cloud, right, and you're now storing the data in the cloud part, so definitely there should be some kind of a responsibility, share responsibility, right? So like some things would the cloud bank would be taking care of, right, and some things would be there which the cloud provider would be taking care of, right? That's kind of thing which is a share responsibility. So the encryption, the IAM, all those kind of things is the responsibility of the bank, and the infrastructure and all the other things is the kind of responsibility of the cloud service provider. Okay, okay. So now there is another control, right, which is called, limited control over your particular cloud. So like for example, in the Google part, right, I was telling you in this Google, this is particularly your Google, the circle. Okay, and inside this particular Google Drive, you are having some kind of your information like your image. Okay, you have your videos in place, you have multiple other things in place inside this Google Drive. Okay, right? Multiple other documents you have inside this, right? So what you're doing is that you have a limited control over it. Once you have uploaded over this particular thing in the AWS, sorry, in the Google Drive, right? You have limited control over the particular piece of data. Like for example, if I'm storing any kind of a picture of my family members, of my friends, my family, right, over the Google Drive, so definitely what can happen is that Google could be storing that particular piece of an information somewhere else, even outside of the country, from or even outside of a geographical location where I'm not present. Okay, without even my consent, right? All those kind of things can be done there. Okay, and there's also allegation. There has been reports by some kind of experts that AWS, Google, what it does is that there's an allegation on the Google that they kind of uh, looks into the Google Drive of, the personal Google Drives of the individual. So if I've stored some kind of images, photos of my, um, cousins, family members, or my friends, right, office colleagues. So definitely there's an allegation that the Google, what it does that they look into or they scan through all the files and folder, right? That's it, right? So that's a limited control you have. So to resolve this, right, for this we have something which is called the S3. It's kind of Google Drive of the AWS. Remember this thing, right? I will be showing you this thing. So we have something which is Google Drive, this GD Google Drive, and in the AWS we have something which is called the S3. Many organizations, like any kind of a bank or a government, whether it's state government, central government, right, whether it's federal government, any government is it is okay, local or national government, what is going to happen is that they are going to use this S3. Why? Because you have a better control over the location, right? Who can access it, all this kind of thing, encryption, all this kind of thing. But that's not the thing with the Google Drive, right? The encryption you are having, you're not good. Okay, in some cases you will not even getting in the encryption part. That's also thing in some part of the world. Okay, location is also one other thing. They are not be uh, storing the particular that piece of information another part of the world where rules could be quite different. Anybody can view it. That could be also a thing. So multiple things happen in this particular Google Drive, right? So that's the thing. So that's a limited control. So you have limited control over your piece of an information. Okay. Now, guys, what we're going to do is that we are going to talk about something which is called virtualizations concept, right? A very, very important thing, virtualization concept. Virtualization. So virtualization, what happens in this virtualization is that virtualization, is a kind of a technology in place that kind of creates a virtual, a kind of a virtual avatar of everything. Okay, that's called the virtualization. Okay, okay. So for let's say for example, like okay, let me simplify that thing in a real life scenario. Let's say, see, I'm a security background. Okay, I work in a field of security, right, in the cloud also. So for that, I need four different PCs. I need even more than that. I need four different PCs for my operationals. Okay. The first PC, this particular PC, this is PC first, is using Linux. The second PC is using Windows. This third PC, this one is using Mac. Okay. And this fourth one is using, you can say it's using Ubuntu. Okay. Again, I'm telling you this is a particular example, right? For my particular project or for my student or my new batch, what I need to do is that I need four PCs, right, which I normally use. The first is for has operating system Linux, the second has Windows, the third has this, you can say, Microsoft, sorry, Mac. Okay, Mac iOS, and in this fourth one I have Ubuntu. Okay, these are all the operating system I am having. Now what is happening in this particular scenario is that, first of all, forget about the virtualization for a minute. If I'm using this thing, I need four PCs in order to do my particular work. It would be absolutely a hectic job, right? It would be absolutely a hectic job, right? And it would be, you know, very, very nerve-wracking, right? To maintain this thing, to update it, to patch it, to have physical security, right? Like for example, if I'm on, to carry it even, right? If I want to go to my house or go to my any relative, right, for a holiday, and I'm concerned that there could be some kind of query from my boss or my seniors, so I have to take all of these four PCs with me. It could be an hectic job. Think about it. If you have four different laptops, in one laptop you have Mac, you have one, okay, so one or another thing you have, Windows, another you have Mac, and one you have Linux, and one you have Ubuntu. You have four different laptops. It would be absolutely heavy and a very hectic job, right? That's the thing. So what is happening in this particular thing is that this is a very nerve-wracking thing. Okay, and then what is the thing is that you have to update it, you have to physically protect it, all those kind of things you have to do. So this is the kind of a problem I am having. Now to resolve this particular thing, what I have done is that there's something, it's a concept which is called the virtualization. What happens in the virtualization? Again, I'm telling this example. This example is a very important thing because from there the virtualization is born. Okay, very important thing. Again, I'm telling this particular example. Again, guys, remember this particular example. I have four PCs, four laptop you can see, one, and each and every PC is having different kind of an operating system. One is having Linux, one is having Windows, one is having Mac OS, okay, and another one is having this Ubuntu, okay, and it would be quite okay if you're not if you are facing any kind of a issue or problem like that. What is going to happen is that it was quite difficult for me to manage it, protect it, right? Or carry it with me, four laptops at a time. Definitely, for sure, it could be very, very difficult and hectic job. Maintain it, consume, taking a lot of resources. See, think from a perspective that you have four laptops open. Definitely, they would be, occupying a lot of space in your office as well as your home. So all of this could be problem. Okay. So to resolve this thing, we have something which we call the virtualization, but where we kind of create a virtual avatar, okay, of that particular each and every physical machine. So what I will be doing is that I will be having something which is called hypervisor, which I will be explaining you, which is kind of a software. Just think about. So I will be having some kind of a software. Inside the software, I will be having a virtual copy, exact replica of it, working exactly the same, no problem in the working, no problem in the any kind of functioning like that. Okay. So what will be there? I will be having an exact replica of all these four. Just I made it five. Sorry for that. I like okay. So I will be having an exact copy of this particular four physical operating systems. Okay. This is that software is called the hypervisor. Got that? Let me show you things. If you're not able to understand it, I think for this particular example was quite simple, pretty good. That this four laptops are there. Right now, what I need a kind of place or I need the four operating systems, right, in my one PC, right? How to do that? Okay, for four operating system, I need four PCs. In an order to and carry that physically, it's a hectic job. My goal is to get a kind of a machine in place, a kind of a laptop in place. Inside that laptop, I would be able to install four operating systems. Okay, that's the thing. And easily I am able to work properly. That is something which we accomplish in the virtualization. Okay, that's the thing which we do, right? Okay. Let me guys give me a minute. Okay, let me open in a kind of a software that is called the hypervisor, and then I will be showing you that. So this is kind of your virtualization. Okay, virtualization is kind of creating a virtual copy of something. It's kind of creating a virtual copy. So this particular laptop would be having this laptop only would be one laptop would be having four operating system which will be operating independent from each other. So this would be Linux, this would be Ubuntu, this would be Mac OS, this would be something else, right? And this particular the place where would be working, it's just called would be the single laptop, right? And the software which will be used, which is called the hypervisor. Okay, so this is your virtualizations. Okay, so this is now we have something called the hypervisor. Okay, okay guys, right? So this is the VMware workstation, right? This is something which is called the VMware workstation. This is kind of an hypervisor. Okay, yeah. So what is that? It is hypervisor is a software that lets you make the virtual copy of something. Okay, that's what it does. For example, let me tell you what I mean is that, let's say for example you have a a kind of book. Okay, there's a kind of a book is there which is having a physical copy, right? That okay, physical copy, it's have paper, you can tear it apart, you can burn it down, something like that. Okay, that's a physical copy of that particular book. Now what happens is that from this particular book we have, I do not want to carry a book because see, at the end of the day I have multiple books. I am habitual of reading a book, at least finishing it within a week or a two. So you can think from an if you go in a year, it will definitely, I will having at least 100 books, right? More than 100 books, and it will be very difficult for me to manage it, right? 100 books, think about, if even a week or two I completely finish a book, within a year I would be having more than 100 books, so where to keep it, right? That could be a big problem. right? So definitely it will be occupying a lot of space. So what we do is that we kind of, in today's world, we have something which is called a digital copy. Okay. Yeah. So what happens is that you kind of take a kind of a Kindle or your phone, and what you do is that instead of having physically hundred of books inside your house, what you do, you have a simple application and you have multiple books inside it, right? That is something which is called the virtualization. This is also a virtualization, guys, right? Remember this thing. You're taking multiple hundreds of physical books and creating a physical, a digital copy of each of every of it, and they are, separate from each other, right? They're a separate book as an entity present there, and you can just click on it and you can just read it, right? That's it. Okay, so that's the thing which we have, which we do in the virtualization. But the software that helps you in converting a physical one into a digital one, it is called the hypervisor. Remember, the software that helps you in converting a physical, the physical thing, okay, a book or a kind of a machine or an operating system into a virtual format is called the hypervisor one. Okay, this is it. Yeah. So see here, in this particular, right now in front of your screen, you can see in the left hand side we have Kali 2017 Windows XP Professional, right? We have academic, this batch so kind of a machine, right? So we have Windows 10, that Kali. I have again Android also I have, because I have, I keep on working on it, right? I have Ubuntu, right? I have Parrot, right? Debian, all those kind of things I have having. Okay, so these are the thing, right? So this particular, so you can have multiple softwares placed, not only one software. So again, hypervisor is a software that lets you create the physical copy of something into a virtual copy of something, right? That is called the hypervisor. So there are multiple different type of hypervisors are there present, right? The first one of the best example I would say is called this, which is called the VMware workstation. This thing which you're seeing right in front of you, which is called VMware Workstation 2016 Pro. The kind of, you can say, disadvantage to it is, you know, right, that, it is, you have to pay for it. It's not free, right? Remember this thing, okay? So it's not free. So, but it's quite pretty good, okay? So that's it. So let me show you this thing. See this, I click on it, and yes, see, this is Windows XP Professional, right? You can see 512 MB and the processing power and all those kind of things. Here is, that is written in a short description, description, and it is Windows XP Professional. So all of these operating systems that you're seeing in the left hand side is very small, right? All of these, see, you can see here, right? Let me draw this particular thing as well. This one all I'm talking about. So each single piece is a complete entity on its own. It's complete, you can say, operating system on its own, independent of each other. So this particular thing, right? Okay, this particular thing, a Windows XP Professional is a kind of an operating systems, okay, which is completely, you know, um, independent from its another, operating system, which is present inside the same software. Okay, so think about, in this particular machine that you're seeing right now, this laptop from which I'm taking this session, you can think about like, it is having at the background Windows 10 home edition, okay, but inside the Windows 10 home edition, I have downloaded a software with the name of VMware Workstation, right? And in that VMware Workstation, I have done is that I have installed these or different operating system and I can work with it. So I does not need to take multiple laptops with me. Now I can do with just one laptop also, right? With just one laptop. See, I have, how many I have, like one, two, three, I at most I would be having at least 10 operating system. More than that, 10 operating system I would be having right now. I have even Android, right, for some kind of pen testing, all this thing kind of thing. All those things I am having it. Okay, so I need to carry only one laptop at a time, not multiple things. So I have to worry about all those kind of things. Okay, and I can easily remove and delete it, right? I can remove it, see, just right click on it and you have a power option of remove. I click on remove and its operating system is gone. I can easily manage it. I can install it as well, right? All you need to do is to click on the file, click on new virtual machine. Okay, just give it a minute. See, typical, click on next part. It will be telling you about, from where is that particular, that something which is called the ISO image, okay, that kind of digital version of that particular operating system, right? So if you type on the over the Google that something which is called Windows XP ISO image, it will be kind of providing you the links where you can download it, okay, but in order to activate it you have to buy that particular key. That's the thing. So you have to browse it, and then you will be providing it will be again with few some steps, you will be kind of providing the memory, RAM, and all those kind of things you will be allocating to it, and then you're good to go, right? So this is the example of virtualization. Okay, now we need to talk about something which is called the hypervisor part, right? Just let me explain you what is happening actually in this diagram. So what is happening, this is hypervisor first, which I'm not going to explain right now. First I'm explaining type 2, then I'm going to explain type 1, okay, because it would be quite easier to correlate with all the things and hands-on thing little bit I have shown with that type 2. So first explaining this. Okay, so in the type 2 hypervisor, what is happening is that we have something which is called the hardware. Okay, the hardware, like for example, the hardware, like for example, your RAM. So this particular machine from which I am taking the session would be having some kind of an hardware configuration, the RAM, the that processor, okay, all those kind of thing would be there, right? So that comes under the hardware thing. Then over that particular hardware, we have something which is called the operating system. Definitely for sure, hardware you have, right? Definitely each and every one we will be having, no matter which vendor you will be using it, whether it's laptop, the HP, Lenovo, Apple, even Microsoft also, has that. Okay, they also kind of provide this Microsoft Surface. So any hardware you will be having, there would be some kind of a hardware configuration, GPU power, and all this kind of things. So that comes to the hardware. That's the basic block. Over the hardware, you have operating systems. So definitely, I have right now Windows 10, and that particular thing is downloaded into right by hardware, right? So that I would be easily able to interact with my machine. Okay. Then over that operating system, I have downloaded this hypervisor. I have downloaded multiple applications and installed them, like VLC media player, very famous one, right? Mostly used for playing, songs, music, and all those kind of thing, videos. Okay, very famous with that. So I have multiple in place. One of them is the hypervisor, the software which converts the physical form of anything into a digital form, right? Any text, message, picture, anything, right? That's it. That's the hypervisor. Okay, so this is one. Okay, now and inside the hypervisor, I shown you multiple operating system. Remember this thing, guys? So I have shown you multiple, at least I have shown you 10 operating systems per there. Like there was Debian, there was Kali Linux, right? There was Android and all those kind of things, right? So that's what it is, right? So these boxes that you're seeing, app and applications, are the operating system which are present in the hypervisor. Let me just quickly summarize you what this hypervisor 2 is. Hypervisor 2 is the building block, is the hardware which you have. Over the hardware, you have installed the operating system. Inside the operating system, you have installed the hypervisor, and that particular VMware workstation is an example which I've shown you. And inside the hypervisor, you have installed multiple operating systems. So this is one operating system, and this is another operating system, and you can install multiple operating system. This is called hypervisor first. Okay, this is it, right? Very important thing. Now we have something which is called hyper. Just give me a minute, guys. Yeah, then we have something which is called hypervisor first. And we have hypervisor first is that something which is called the hardware, and the second we have the hypervisor. Okay, so what is the difference, right? The difference is of the operating system. This okay, one more very important thing. The hypervisor first is is mostly used in the organization. This hypervisor 2 is mostly, you can say, this is also kind of used in organization, but also you can use in the personal level. This thing cannot be used at a personal level. I cannot show you a kind of software which is showing this property of hypervisor first, because you have to do certain different configuration of hardware, this particular machine, all this kind of thing. It is very tricky, right? That's why it's used by the organizations, but it has provide much more security, right? That's the thing. So what happens in this particular hypervisor first, right? And why it's so important, why organization uses this, not this? The thing is that operating system, the biggest difference you can see in the diagram only, the difference is of the operating system. In the hypervisor first, we are not having any kind of an operating system, right? We are not having any kind of an operating system there. Okay, guys. Why? So for example, why we remove the operating system? The biggest problem with the operating system is that definitely it really helps you in a lot of things, but a major problem is that if there is some kind of a ransomware attack to this operating system, definitely, and it's not able to work properly, some kind of a malware attack, ransomware attack, any kind of an attack is there. So what is going to happen? Everything over it, like all the apps. So if this operating system collapse, so all the apps installed in the operating system would be collapsing, and inside, and all the operating systems that you have installed in the hypervisor would also collapse. So all of these complete the architecture would be collapsing for sure, right? That is your hypervisor too. But that's not the case in the hypervisor first. In the hypervisor first, we completely remove the operating system, right? That part is now done in the hardware. So we have the hypervisor, which is a hypervisor first, which is also kind of an hardware, sorry, software. And what it does is that this particular hypervisor, it is stored, it is kind of installed in the hardware. This thing, this hypervisor 2, it was installed in the operating system. In the hypervisor first, it is installed in the hardware. Okay, this is what it does. And same thing again, same thing, and the applications, they are installed then in the hypervisor. Same thing, the operating system is removed. And one more thing which is quite different, in this hypervisor. The first thing is that, this particular hypervisor first is that, yeah, this one is that there's something which is called the name of clustering, right? What is happening in the clustering is that if, for example, this is my Kali Linux, right? And this is my Ubuntu, or you can say this is my Windows XP. Okay, so this is my Kali Linux and this is my Windows 11. This is my Kali and this is my Windows 11. Okay, so what is happening in that this Kali is doing some kind of some kind of work. It is kind of, scanning the network and all those kind of things it is doing. And now I am having Windows 11. It is also kind of downloading something or copying or doing some kind of process in between. I'm having a sense that this hypervisor software in which I have installed this operating system in the hypervisor first, it's going to, it's kind of going to crash or causing some problem. So what I can do is that I can take this, both the operating system, live running operating system. Remember this, they are not shut down, they are running. I can take this, both of it, and transport it somewhere else to some other hypervisor. That's the thing which is called the clustering, which is the thing which is in the hypervisor fund, which will not be seen in the hypervisor 2. Okay, that's the thing. Again, I'm telling you, if you have a running operating system inside the hypervisor, like I have shown you multiple, like at least in my particular system, it was 10 operating system. Right now, in the diagram, I have shown you only two. Okay, so these two operating systems are working and running. There's some kind of a problem in your hypervisor, and you think that, if this hypervisor goes down, so does all the application. So what I will doing is that I will be, able to move these operating systems are running in a running state, able to move from one location to another location. Okay, that's it. That's the thing which we have in the hypervisor first. Okay, guys. This is the difference between hypervisor first and that's not the thing. That's the thing which is called the clustering, and that thing is not, not the capability of the hypervisor second. Okay, this is it, right? So this is the thing which is called the hypervisor type first and type second. Now, deploying a simple VM on the on-premises one. Let me tell you this thing, right? Just an overview I'm telling you. Okay. Okay, so see here, it's very simple as I already explained you, right? On premises, this is an on premises, there's nothing to do with the cloud part, right? This is an on premises one. If I even disconnect my, this particular internet of my connection, okay, so after you do that, okay, after you kind of, even I disconnect my internet connection, definitely I would not be able to take this session part, but definitely for sure, what is going to happen is that I am going to, you know, still use this particular thing. So this is not online. So what you just click on this new virtual machine, right? And you download this particular iOS image. You install that particular provider's location. You click on next, right? You type the Windows product key, full name, and all those kind of things, and keep on clicking the next, and then provide the RAM and the hardware for running it, and that's it. That's what it will be working. Okay. So this is how you will, deploying a VM on the on-premises one, right? Then we have something which is called the containers. a kind of a much more advanced version of the this on-premises one, right? Sorry, the VMware. It's kind of a much more thing. Okay, let me just tell you about this container part. So what happens in this container is that, in this VMware container is this. This is, this is kind of a normal hypervisor, right? This is an hypervisor. Okay, this is an infrastructure, as you can say, operating system and all this kind of thing. And here you will be having virtual machines and the operating system. So this is your normal hypervisor. Okay, perfect. Now container is what it is. Container is kind of a thing. It's much more kind of, hypervisor only. But the thing in the container is that you need operating system. Okay, the first thing is that you need an operating system for sure, right? Like in the hypervisor first, we are not saying that we does not need an operating system, right? That's the thing. Okay, that's all. Yeah, again, very, very important thing. The hypervisor first one is called the bare metal hypervisor, okay, which does not need any kind of an operating system, and it's mostly used by the organization. Practically, I cannot show you that thing. Okay, for that I have to completely configure my hardware, this particular laptop. Okay, that's the thing. So mainly you will not be seeing it on a personal level. Yeah. So that done, when we go to the clustering part, sorry, when we go to the container part, what happens is that in the hypervisor part, right? It's kind of a Docker engine. There's a thing. We kind of swap this hypervisor with something which is called the Docker engine, which really helps you in kind of deploying the container, right? That's a container engine, right? It's kind of hypervisor only, but with much more advanced feature. And it is deployed over something which is called the operating system. So you need to have an operating system like in the hypervisor too. Okay, over some kind of infrastructure, like the hardware, something like that. So you have a hardware, you have an operating system, and over that operating system you have Docker or Kubernetes or something like that you will be installing. And then what will be happening is that you will be having, you know multiple app, this container, these app d app e f e, you see, these are all the containers that you are having, right? And one more thing, remember this thing, that these containers would be are irrespective of the operating system. Remember this thing, the operating system could be Windows and the containers could be of Linux, and you can easily move these particular containers from this machine to another machine, no problem with the operating system. But they need, to some little degree, they need an operating system in order to function, right? This is just a small overview of the container part, right?